Good day, everyone. And what a stunning day it is today. Now, I did a bit of cheating because this lady that's with us today, she was very patient, and she was nice to talk to. And usually I don't talk to the person for too long. It's usually just a few things for about 20 seconds and then we hop back on. But I know this is going to be a very interesting podcast, especially when she talks about her business, which I believe is to do with AI. That's right, people. I said AI. I wonder how it's going to help us with the knowledge of AI. So anyway, again, I'm talking too much. And Deanna Reed, did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Oh my God. The third person in all my podcasts. Correct. I'm getting there via Disneyland, but I get there in the end. Deanna, thank you for coming and using your precious time and coming on here to share your journey and talk about AI. How interesting. So, will you start us off, please, just by saying where you're at and who you help?
Sure. So I currently kind of have a variety of things that I do, but primarily I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Virtual Coworker, connect businesses with virtual assistants. But in that role, I have learned how to bring in AI to help me supplement my marketing team. And in learning AI that way, I learned how AI could help me in many other aspects outside of that role. And so I utilize AI in pretty much everything all day long. It's basically become my intern, my partner, my assistant. It helps me formulate words when I can't put the words together on my own. I suffer a lot from anxiety and especially from stage fright. And so even in email communications, I will overthink. And AI using tools like ChatGPT really helps me to kind of formulate my words, put things together, and make it make more sense.
Wow, now that sounds really interesting. I can see, especially when you speak from the business side of things, we're going to have a very in-depth conversation and how that works for other people's businesses. But I'm interested, you're on this podcast here and your confidence and your flowing and everything. How is it that you have stage fright? Because I have stage fright and I know how you feel, especially when you have to stand up in front of everybody. So let's talk about the stage fright thing. How are you getting over that?
By pushing myself, in all honesty. I can remember as a kid, my cousins and I, we would create these little performances that we wanted to perform in front of our family. And even just performing amongst family, I would forget my lines. I would try to rush off our fake little stage. I was terrified. And then in high school, I was in the drama club and kept trying to push myself, but I can remember freezing on stage just in auditions. I could not talk. I was just petrified. And so I lived behind the stage. I was stage manager. And so I was amongst all these people who were perfectly comfortable speaking out loud and speaking in front of audiences and kind of absorbing that energy from them. Going into business, I would, on conference calls, not be able to talk. I would have thoughts in my head that I wanted to say and was so afraid of making a mistake or not sounding right that I wouldn't even be able to verbalize it. And it really took, when I went to university, they would make us record our presentations and we would have to present presentations. And I was petrified. I was so afraid of doing it. But it's doing it over and over and over and putting yourself out there. And especially podcasting, especially with hosts like you make it so warm and so comfortable that it's easier to put yourself out there and it's easier to kind of expose yourself because I feel like you have that support system, that you provide that support system to your guests. Okay. And so it's been a matter of just kind of constantly pushing myself in order to become more used to it and more able to do it successfully.
So how are you nowadays when it comes to you have to speak on a stage and speak to the masses? How just take us through the process, because I take it that you never get over those butterflies and,
No.
feeling exactly. But you have your method for being able to do so. So just take us through the process, how you actually can get yourself in a position where you can stand up, speak, and focus. I'm sure you have to do a few things before you go up there, because I'm telling you, when I have to go before everyone, my knees are shaking. Now, I'm good when it comes to a team. If I've got a large team around me, I'm not a problem. I can have a huge amount of people and I can have a conversation. But when it comes to a situation where you're going to stand on the so-called pedestal, right? You're the only one there, and then you've got no answers coming back to, no toing and froing. That's a problem. So I'm curious, how have you got through the situation where you can stand up there and do it time after time? What's your process?
So I've created what works for me, and it may not work for everybody, but I remember hearing the stories of, vision everybody in their underwear, and that way they're less conflicting or anything. That doesn't really work for me. What I do is I look for the faces that are supporting me. I look for the smiles. I look for the people that I can connect with and speak to, that I'm growing that comfort zone with them. And so if I'm scanning the audience and I see somebody who maybe is just not really into what I'm saying, or they're distracted or whatever, I kind of move beyond them and I look for the people that are really connecting with me. And then it's easier for me to kind of zone out everyone else and feel like I'm having more of a one-on-one conversation. And you can't, unfortunately, just have it with just one person. You've got to look for your groups.
Yes.
But it's made it so much easier to not focus on the whole of the room, but focus on the people that I'm connecting with and getting that support back from.
That's beautiful. There's many ways that everyone has their way, a unique way to be able to attack that. But that is unique. I've never heard that way. Trying to connect. I've heard of trying to connect with one person, but from a point of view, get the warmth, get the person that you could probably stand in a room one-to-one with and have a one-to-one conversation. I think I'm going to try that one. Okay, so let's talk about the situation of AI, using it within your business. How did you come about to give me a problem that you had and you thought to yourself, I think I can use this, let me try? What was the first instance that you came across AI and you found out it actually helped you?
Sure. Writing an article. So in marketing, one of the biggest things that you can be doing is creating content and getting content out there frequently. That's how you get your organic leads. That's how you grow your press, your brand recognition. And what I would find is there would be days or times where I'd be so overwhelmed with everything else going on that to be able to just sit down and create an idea and take it from start to finish would be really difficult. I just had too many other distractions, too many other things going on. And a lot of times self-confidence issues as well. Like maybe I'm not going to be able to write the best thing. And so finding a tool the first tool that I used actually had the prompts already created inside of it. And so it was asking me the questions and I would just give it the answers and it would formulate an article for me. And then obviously with AI, you still need to put that human touch in. You still need to make it sound human and be able to connect with your audience. And so that would be kind of my starting ground. And I would then export it out and then make some of the changes. And it made it so much easier from start to finish. It saved me time. It helped me with my confidence. I didn't have to stress so much about it. And then since then, I've looked at other tools, utilized other tools. Now I don't have the ones that use the prompting. I actually create all the prompting myself. And I run a very lean team. And so it's basically like an additional employee for me at work.
No, totally. You're totally right. I mean, I'm dyslexic, amongst other things. And with dyslexia, I find it problems actually writing and put it down. I'm very intelligent. I know how to articulate myself when I'm speaking, but the paper is just really difficult. Now, with AI, I've been using it for years. And what I tend to find, it's helped me actually write. So it's got to the stage where I used to get AI to help me out because my spelling was iffy, structuring, how I wanted to say. But when it came back, it was actually my teacher. Yes. And now it's got to the stage, I don't have to use AI because I go, blah, 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 blah. I type out whatever sentence, rewrite the sentence, and I go, actually, it's not as good as what I wrote. So it's taken a few years, but it's been my teacher. And I now do most of the writing myself, which gives it that human touch, because you've got to be careful, as you've already said. Everybody, well, I shouldn't say everybody, but most people can tell AI from a mile off. It's the same old, right? Yes. So I like your process when you use AI like an assistant, and that, like an assistant, you then twig it like a human system, right? You ask the human assistant, could you do A, B, and C? And you're the editor, and then you see what the assistant's done, and then you twig it. And that's what should be done. But what I tend to find is that a lot of people just use it for banter, which is the wrong way to use it.
Right. So one of the things that I do to kind of elaborate more on my process is I will begin with saying, this is what I want to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I've trained my AI. It's very well aware of what my target audience is. It knows what the business is that I'm writing for. It actually knows all of the different, it knows when I'm writing personally, when I'm writing on behalf of our CEO. Yeah. I've created all of the different identities that it knows and the different brand voices. And so once I tell it, we're going to be writing for this voice, this is kind of what I want to discuss. Are there areas that you think might be better? Are there things that you think I'm missing in this discussion? And then I partner with AI, and we kind of come up with what it is that we are going to talk about. And then it's, okay, let's put together a draft. And then I go through the draft and I'm reading the draft. And I'm very big on, I 100% agree. If you take something straight from AI and publish it, it is going to be obvious that it's AI. There's just certain phrases, certain terms. It's very mechanical.
In the world of...
Yes. There's actually a fantastic Medium article out there that is the top 5 things to avoid, or like the top 5 identifiers that you have AI content. And that's one of them, that in this world or in this day and age of, and it's become so obvious. There are these certain little triggers that when you instantly see it, okay, that was AI and somebody didn't touch that part of it. Yeah. And unfortunately, what I found was when I started writing on my own again to try to phase out AI and just see what I could do on my own, I started writing a little bit too much like AI. So some of what I would write wouldn't pass AI identifiers. And so I had to kind of go back and do a lot of creative writing just on my own. And it's constantly that dance. You're working with AI, you're learning from AI, AI is learning from you. Yeah. And it's very, very interesting, but it's never just saying, here, create this, and then publishing it. It's definitely having a conversation with AI.
That's right.
It has access to so much more than what I have access to.
Yeah.
So I may think that my audience wants to hear about X, but AI, with all of its connections and all of its inputs, knows that my audience wants to hear about X, but with the concerns of Y and Z. And so it can help me streamline to create better content that goes directly to what my audience is looking for.
Yeah, if used in the correct way. I mean, the way I see AI is there to save time, not necessarily take you over, but it's actually to save time. And you obviously got these agents that actually, as you said, do particular things within your business. So those agents are really assistants, like virtual assistants in the real world, but we call them agents, right? And they're there to save you time. They're not necessarily there to replace the process completely. And listeners, I would I would say to be very careful when you're using AI, because as much as you can get away with using it as verbatim right now, in about 2 years' time, it's going to be a situation everybody's going to sound the same. So if you don't start getting used to trying to find your own voice, and there are ways to set it up, which is what Deanna was saying. There are ways to set it up so you can put it in as a best of voice as you can for yourself. If you don't make it humanistic, you're going to sound like everybody else. You can get away with it now. Because there's a lot of people still aren't using it well, but I give it about 1.5 years, 2 years, and you're going to sound like everybody else. Hence why I make sure I use AI like a tool, and if I do use it, it's got to talk equivalent of how I would say. And Deanna, would you say the same thing?
100%. One of the best ways that I've heard AI described recently is it's the canvas. It still needs the artist to put onto it, and then for the artist to refine it. The canvas is simply there to assist.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. If you use it solely just to be your voice, then your voice is going to be AI. But if you're training AI in your specific, unique voice, if you're refining it as you go, and then even once the output is done, you go in and refine it a little bit further, be able to keep that unique voice, and it'll make you stand out amongst all of the other people that are simply just input, output.
Yeah, no, totally. And the thing is, it could be used in so many other ways. Then, what other ways can it be used? Not just in text, but can it be used in other ways?
Oh, 100%. So I was actually, the school that I graduated from, the university, just yesterday we had a webinar, and I was a panelist, and I had, there was an alumni that was also a panelist. She uses AI in her art. And so she'll create a bit of an image in her mind or whatever, and then she'll write into DALL-E is the primary one that she uses, but she also uses other AI for her art. But then she goes in and refines it through the tool, and then takes it, one of the images that she showed yesterday, she actually used in 3 different tools to create it, but she's using AI specifically for her art, for her graphic design, but also for her art that she sells.
And audio, have you ever used it for audio, with AI with audio? Have you tried that one?
I have. There is an AI tool that you can actually tell it, please write me a song about this. And it will create the music for you. It creates the lyrics. It has somebody actually singing it. It's a lot of fun to play with. I haven't used it for any professional reasons. Literally, I was just making songs for my kids. Or we had an employee that left the company, and I made like a goodbye song for her. But it's very interesting, and I think the realm of possibilities is definitely there. But again, all of it requires that human touch, that human input, because AI is still very, very robotic. It's still very process oriented. And so it still needs you to come in and say, hey, look, we have an employee that's leaving. She's very special to us. She's been with the company for 16 years. We want to talk about how much we're going to miss her, but we don't want it to be a sad song. We want it to be encouraging her on this next part of her journey. If I just told AI, please write a song for an employee that's leaving, you're going to get a song about an employee that's leaving. It's not going to have that resonant feeling.
That's interesting. So what you're talking really is always give AI context.
100%. Yes, definitely. You have to think about, in the background, it's still just code. It's still just, I'm trying to think of the best way of saying it, but it's inputs and outputs. You tell it one thing and it's just going to pull from its wealth of knowledge and say, okay, here you go. You have to give it context. And I've actually been listening to an audiobook about AI, and it's been really interesting hearing the different ways that people experiment with it and the different things that they do. There's the chapter that I was just listening to this morning talks about when they create chatbots that become very humanistic and very realistic. They actually take the history of someone's texts.
That's right.
And they drop it in there until it kind of create this persona based upon what you've read from these texts.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that, but even then you're having to put all that input in first. You're having to give it that context. If I just said create a chat bot that I'm going to get along with, it's not going to know how to build that. It's just going to build a generic chat bot.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I mean, there is just like anything, and any tool that you have, you can have it in three different hands, three different persons' hands. But, certain people know how to use that tool. The other person will use the same tool and doing nothing with it. So it's just like anything in life. Just study the tool, study how it's used, and you can use it effectively. I know with the audio, I use it for my clients because that's what I do. I help automate people's businesses and simplify things, especially from a neurodivergent point of view. So I automate processes and everything else. I almost was going to do AI to mimic my voice and probably throw out some podcasts. And obviously when I tested it, it sounded good, but it's still AI. It's quite cold. It's not dynamic. My voice is quite dynamic. I pause and breathe at certain part. I'm very good at speech, and AI is not there yet. And I can tell AI, when you hear these shorts or these videos, whatever, and people say, oh God, it sounds so real. And I can tell it a mile off. It's not there yet. It's come a long way. And yes, the tool can be used, but again, that's a good thing about being human. There are intricate things about us. You can't quite do it, but it is interesting because there's so much you can do. You can automate everything in your life. All right, let's talk more about you as a person, because I'm interested about your strength, because you've got a huge amount of strength. When you cannot felt like you couldn't stand in front of people, but now you do, and all those other things. Now, you were saying about you have a son with is it ADHD?
Autism.
Oh, with autism.
Yes.
Now,
and my second son was diagnosed with ADHD as well, and then my youngest was diagnosed with PTSD that represented with anxiety, ADHD, and depression.
Okay, so let's take this, because I tend to talk a lot about people that got ADHD and autism and etc. So you've been using the technology of AI now for quite some time in so many different ways. Now you have family that's autistic.
Mm-hmm.
We're using AI. Is it possible to help with autism? And I'm asking you because you would know this. You use the technology and you have family who are autistic. So do you see how it helps, if ever at all? How does that come into play? Just give me a...
Sure. So one of the ways that I could see it helping me is my oldest son, who is autistic. He is verbal, but he still lives very much in a world of concretes. It is this way or it is that way. There's no in between. We always talk about there's no gray area with him.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, having 24 years of experience with that, I can look at that at AI and say, okay, I can see that this is how AI is as well. And so I know he would exceed in utilizing AI because he understands that concept.
Yeah.
But so having the two in my life has helped me to better understand both of them. I understand how important the inputs are in AI because of the way that I communicate with my oldest son. Understanding that I can't really talk in gray areas with him or hypotheticals. I have to talk in concretes with him. And so it's definitely benefited me in that way. I think for him, he's not been very open to AI yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to encourage him because I believe it would help him expand in that understanding of hypotheticals and understanding the gray areas. I really want him to explore. And one of the things that I talk about with AI the most is there's a lot of fear around it. People are afraid it's coming from their jobs. People are afraid it's going to take over the world. I mean, there's a lot of fear because there's not a lot of understanding.
Yeah.
And one of the best pieces of advice I can give is just go in there and dabble in it, play in it. There's no harm in just entering information, testing it out. One of the things that I do quite frequently is I will ask the tool that I use, hey, tell me more about this. Tell me about what inputs do you have? What access to knowledge do you have?
Yeah.
You're learning how to communicate with it, but you're also learning to kind of remove some of that fear and some of that you get more of that understanding.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And obviously a lot of people are fearing because it is affecting a lot of people's jobs. But what I would say to a lot of people in this case, you can either sit and just wait for it to take your job, or you either embrace it, learn the tool, and own that situation so you understand it. Like, for instance, it's just like any evolution that we go through. There was the great industrial turn with the century before to do with the trains and everything else, and everybody thought, oh, that's it, the horse and cart is gone, and all the jobs, one job left, another type job came. So, for instance, what I would say, well, maybe you could do prompt engineering. There's huge opportunities with prompt engineering, amongst other things. So some jobs may alleviate, or go, but others are then would be created. So, and it's the same thing, and so you've just got to look at the market, have a look at how it can help you, because the technology can help everybody. But if you're going to fear and do nothing, then nothing's going to happen.
There is a fantastic quote that I cannot remember who to attribute it to, but it was in one of the webinars that I attended. They said, it's not AI that is coming for your jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people who know and utilize AI
Totally.
are coming for your job.
That's right.
A perfect example is my role. I have a social media manager that works beneath me. She is fantastic at creating content and building our social media channels.
Mm-hmm.
Now, AI can help me create post captions. It can help me create the images, but it's never going to replace her. She actually now utilizes AI to help her refine her captions. She can upload our account profiles and have AI review what we've posted and tell her where the most engagement is, saves her time, and allows her to create more effective content. So it's not replacing her, it's helping her to be better at her job and to be more efficient in her job. And the fact that she knows that and knows how to utilize it is going to make her more valuable than somebody who comes in and is too afraid to utilize it.
Oh, totally. And it's a conversation we had before we came on, wasn't it? When I use automation for this podcast. So listeners, I've got no problem sharing how I do this, but the reason why no, you don't know. Okay. What's happened is that I tend to have podcasts, and I do podcasts maybe 3, 4, or 5 in a day. And the reason why I can do it is because I have a natural conversation. I don't have a list of questions. I don't have the prepped. I have that gift. I'm lucky. That's part of my neurodivergence. So I use that as a superpower. But at the same time, I use AI with that superpower that I have as a human being, where as soon as this podcast finishes, we have access to it instantly. And so does AI. I've already had AI take the shorts, turn it into shorts, summarize it, turn it into social media posts in my voice, and I have at least 40 shorts from this video, amongst other things. That's not the only thing. So this is what I'm saying about don't fear the technology. You're going to have to embrace it, because if you do not, there'll be someone like me that will take over.
Mm-hmm.
One person has set this all up, and I've used the equivalent of 5 people to create the information that's going to come from this in just an hour. So this is why embrace the technology. Otherwise, just as Diana said, it's not AI you've got to fear, but the people that use it effectively. So Diana, sorry, talking too much again.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so you've got an unfair advantage because you was talking about your family with autism, right? And you said you saw the similarities with AI and autism. So you understand the structure, how things go. So you picked up the technology quite quickly. And that's quite amazing to me because not a lot of people could find the similarities. So you've got a very, how can I say, structured, you can see problems in things and put associations to them. Very,
Correct.
And you've always been like that, I take it.
Probably. Yeah, I'm very empathetic. I can see, I can remember in like history in school, I could never remember the dates of when things happened.
Okay.
But I can tell you how people felt about it and how people reacted to it.
Wow.
And so all of my essays would be like, this happened and this is the impact that it had on people and this is how it changed society, but it wouldn't have the dates because I could just never remember the dates. I'm much more of the emotional side of it.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Now, you're quite, as you said, a very empathetic person. Empathy tends to come from some kind of, some form of trauma, be it that slight or large. Empathy doesn't come from anywhere. Where do you think that comes from?
I am very fortunate enough to say that I don't recall trauma in my childhood. I remember having a very wonderful childhood. That being said, I have parental units and grandparents who did suffer trauma. And so I believe the way that they responded to the world around them based on the trauma helped form me to be more of an empathetic person.
Right. So when it comes to your grandparents, when they were bringing you up, obviously they taught you in a particular way and gave you examples how to be. So I'm sure it was a situation, Diana, do this. And the reason being is because someone reacts this way, that way, da-da-da-da. Were they like that?
Well, so I had my mother who had some trauma. And so she would be very, very careful. You need to be considerate of how this is going to make somebody else feel. When you say this, you need to think about this. And I'd also watch my older sister, who was much more sensitive than me. My mother would say things to her and my sister would take it the wrong way and kind of come. And so it was really seeing that. And then, yes, definitely my grandmother as well, who had gone through trauma in her life. Thankfully, I was around a lot of people who knew how the world could affect positively and negatively and the power of your words and your actions. And so without having to suffer it myself, I was able to understand based upon their reactions and their experiences.
Oh, you were blessed. You were blessed. It was similar with me, with my my grandfather, who I call as my father, and he's very similar to what you was talking about. And he always gave me examples. Mother was the same way. And that's why I have a lot of empathy. Obviously, I can improve in life. But I was always given examples why, and we're all very similar, and don't judge, and the reason why, and etc., etc. And I always find it very interesting when people like you and how you think and where you're coming from. So this is why I asked the question. So empathy is a great trait. It's a great line that flows within you. You had a beautiful childhood, which was great, and I'm really glad you did. Even though You had problems standing on the stage and having the speech thing, but you still got through that. So you had a strong character, amazing character to get through that. Now, when it came to your marketing business, how did you decide that you wanted to do marketing? Where does that journey start from?
I've always been creative. I used to write stories. I would draw. I've never been very good at drawing, but if I could create art like digitally, I used to create all these little, just crazy little like posters and stuff.
Okay.
And I happened to be working at a position, I think the receptionist there, and I was friends with their marketing manager. And I would go into her office just to kind of talk with her, and I'd see her create all of these things. And I had no idea that was a job. I didn't know that you could get paid to do that. And it was like my entire world opened up. And it was like, this is what I enjoy doing in my free time. If somebody's going to pay me to do this, this is fantastic. And I just became obsessed with marketing. I joined the American Marketing Association. I started taking classes and then started actively putting myself out there for marketing roles. Big kudos to the first company that hired me as their marketing manager with no marketing experience on my resume.
Really?
But I was able to, I created a resume that properly marketed myself based upon just what I had observed and what I had learned, and then sitting in the interviews and talking to them about what my goals were for them. They gave me that chance and I did very, very well. It was a wonderful job, but the fact that they took a chance on somebody who didn't have it on paper but could demonstrate that knowledge and that understanding, and then it's all just kind of grown from there. I made the mistake when I was young. I had kind of the ego. I was offered a full-time job right out of high school as a purchaser. I thought I had it made, and so I didn't go to school. I didn't go to university, and it wasn't until I was taking a couple of courses here and there. Didn't really have the support at home, but then once COVID hit, it was like, okay, this is time. This is time that I'm sitting at home anyways. I can get these degrees. I can have these pieces of paper that help really establish that I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I already had the experience, but there's a lot of times where the paper just makes that difference. And so from there, I learned this whole other thirst. And so I did the bachelor's degree in digital marketing, and then I went and got the master's degree in digital marketing. And now I'm doing the doctorate degree in business administration with the strategic marketing. It's realizing that this is going to be a never-ending learning career. Things change so quickly in marketing. But it all kind of boils down to just walking into that friend's office and seeing what she was doing. And like, this is what I enjoy doing just in my free time. And discovering what marketing was. I don't remember anybody coming into school when I was in high school and saying that this was an option for a career. I had no clue what it was. I knew about, like, in the old TV shows where they talk about commercials and, the ad creations. I knew about that, but never really understood marketing until I saw it taking place. And then it just became an obsession.
Wow. Do you know what? That's a beautiful journey where you've just actually just gone for it, created something out of nothing. Well, more than nothing, because you had some special knowledge from the point of view you was able to observe certain things and put it together. So they saw the gift in that. But I'm sure when they interviewed you, it was more to do with your personality while having the intuition to put everything together, and that's what really tipped it for them. And I can see that. I can see you're an easy person to get on with, and then to go through the stages of then educating yourself, because remember, originally you wasn't going to educate yourself, it was a mistake and etc., but you actually came back in life and you thought, no, I can do this and I'm going to attack this and go on. And this is why I always say to the listeners, it's never too late to do anything in life. And even though you're going through some really tough times, there's people just like yourself, a successful businesswoman. You've gone through your ups and downs, and you're still going through your ups and downs. It never stops, right?
That's life.
And that's life, exactly. And the thing is, you couldn't be in that position unless you had the downs before you went up. For strength to actually come about, you have to go through hardship. I've never come across anybody that hasn't gone through some slight or hardship. There has to be some kind of, test over and over again, right? What do you think about that?
There's actually, I have it tattooed on my wrist.
You have? Okay, come. Well, praise show.
This too shall pass. And it comes from the fact that life is ebbs and flows. If you didn't have ebbs and flows, how boring would that be?
It would.
And so it's a constant reminder to me that when I'm in my highs and everything is wonderful and everything's going well, I need to enjoy it. I need to savor it. I need to stock up that feeling, because at some point there's going to be a low. It just happens. It's the natural flow of life. And so I need to know that when that comes, even that is not going to be permanent. It's going to eventually rise back up again. And so enjoy the highs while you have the highs. Relish in them. And when you're in the lows, learn from the lows. And know that it's not going to be low forever. You're going to get back up to that high. And so I have it on my wrist. It's something I consistently tell my kids. It's something that my grandmother had actually taught me, is just, you're going to have this path, and it's never going to be a straight line. It's never going to be everything is wonderful or everything is horrible. That's the joy of being alive. That's the joy of life, is you're going to have those moments that test you, and then you're going to have the rewards from those tests.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So we're going to talk about testing you. It's a situation that you're successful in your business. You have a testing day, let's say in marketing. Just give us a testing day, a day that you go, oh, I just can't believe it. And then you find a solution to that test.
Yesterday, again, as a prime example, we think our Facebook business account was hacked. All of a sudden, there's additional names in there. I personally haven't touched Meta in a very long time. They made it not very user-friendly, and I have employees that's their role. And so I try to let them be the owners of that. But when they came to me and said, hey, there's some really weird things going on, that becomes a test for me. Okay, great. How do we approach this? I can sit and panic and freak out and tell them, you need to fix all this. But they're coming to me for that support. They're coming to me because they need my help. They need my guidance. And so that's where you have to create a plan of attack. You have to be solid about it. And so it's right away looking at, okay, what options are available to us? What knowledge base is out there that we can access at 10 o'clock at night? And taking it step by step. And then once you're through it, it's that reward of, now I know how to do that. Now I've learned something new. I've guided my team. They've learned something new. If they ever encounter this again, they're going to have that knowledge. They're going to have that experience, and they're going to have that confidence that they know how to handle it. And they approach it in a different way. If they get another issue, they're going to know that it's okay to come to me. They're going to know that it's safe to come to me, and we can work it out together.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So you always, because you have the basic mindset that you're going to get your lows and your highs, this is going to be a low, there's going to be a high that's going to come after it. So you apply that in your business as well as your personal life, and obviously you give that support to the people that you work with, and that helps the business no end. So even if you have an issue with a client and you have a problem with an issue business-wise, you always get the job done.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If I'm hired, if I have been tasked with something, it's going to get done. There is no, oops, sorry, I can't do it. I'm going to figure it out. If I have to teach myself something brand new, I'm going to do it. I think challenge is growth. And so challenge can be scary, but the amazing feeling that you get after you've accepted and just relished in that challenge and learned from it and grown from it, that ending point is just, that feeling is so amazing that it's like, now you look for the next challenge. because you want to go through that growth again.
Yeah, interesting. I get that. Okay, let's talk about more of your marketing. What exactly, let's break down, what do you market exactly? Now, most people would have started this from the beginning, but me, I'm far more interested in the person show their strength and their resilience, because the thing is, you can have a business, but if you are not resilient as a person, are you the right person to handle anybody's account? And obviously you are. So let's talk about the marketing side of things. What exactly and how do you market your clients? What exactly are we talking about? Sales marketing? Are we talking about social media? Break it down for us.
So it really depends on the client's needs. So again, full time, I am Chief Marketing Officer for Virtual Coworker, and for that, it's getting people to understand their product, their service. And so that is human assistants in the Philippines that work as your virtual assistants. It's like hiring an extension team that works remotely. And so it's helping to build brand awareness. It's helping people to understand, again, in this day and age, talking like AI, but in this time now, saying a virtual assistant means something much different than when the company initially began 13 years ago. And so it's, how do we combat that? We've built 13 years of a brand identity of virtual assistants, but now it means more digital assistants. And so how do we combat that, but keep our brand in place? And so I do that for them full time, but then on my own through Deanna Reed Marketing, I work with local businesses in LA and in the LA area with whatever marketing needs they have, because I know how hard it is as a small business to get your name out there and to build a brand when you're competing against these retail giants or these big industries and corporations. And so I happened to have we had a family friend, they had a small vintage store and they were getting ready to launch their second vintage store. They're competing with like Antique Alley and all these different places that are well established, in addition to, Walmart and Amazon and everything else. And so how do they get their name out there? How do they get their brand awareness? And so I put together a PR program for them, reached out to all the local news and press to get the news and press down there for their grand opening, worked with them on their social media. I'm getting ready to work on a local film festival here that they didn't really have a lot of social media going on. And so I've put together a whole social media plan for them to build that brand awareness, generate ticket sales, and get people actually attending the film festival. And so, comes off wrong. People did attend the film festival prior, but to increase the attendance.
Of course.
So it's really looking at, when they come to you, they're coming to you with a specific problem, but they may not always understand what that problem is. They may think it's this, but it could be this, this, and this.
That's right.
Well, it's looking at it, understanding what the real problem is, what the whole problem is, and then creating a holistic solution that's going to solve all of that. And so that could be sales marketing. That could be creating Google ads or PPC ads, but it could also just be organic. Let's create some press for you. Let's create some organic blog posts that are going to draw people to your website. It's really different for every business, every case.
You're totally right. And when I've got my customers, it's the same thing, because what I tend to find is that the customers think they know what they need, and it tends not to be the case. So how I just deal with it, I say, what are you trying to achieve?
Right.
And then I work it back from there. And I suppose you do the same thing.
Yes, that is, I was like, somebody gets it. Because again, they're coming to you because you're the expert. And that's so right. I don't expect them to be able to know what the issue is.
No, exactly.
Because they're already identified that they're not the expert in that area. And so understanding what the end goal is, that sets up what they're going to consider the ROI of your services. It's going to set up what their expectations are in your performance. And that's where you work back and see, okay, to get this end result, what needs to happen?
That's right. Exactly. So when I'm working with the clients, I always work backwards, because the thing is, by knowing what they're trying to achieve and working backwards, you can actually, what's the word for it actually? Reverse engineer?
Yes.
You can reverse engineer the problem. If you try and start from the beginning to the end, you're going to go nowhere at all. So when I solve any situation in life, you always start back and work from there. So I'm glad you do the same thing, but and it's far easier, because if you're going to rely on the client to tell you what's wrong, it's not the way to go. Otherwise, you'll be going around the mulberry bush, right?
Exactly. Well, and you're going to your results are going to be no different than what their results would have been.
Exactly.
Brought you in.
Totally, because all you're doing is just working on the same problem that they've got before. It hasn't been solved at all. So it's a bit like when people, for instance, I use a lot of automation. That's what I do for people and companies. I replace potential people in people's business, and I use automation, or I help them solve a process. But how I help solve that process, you start off manually. You don't start off with the automation. You look at manually, you perfect the manual. So you may find something in that process manually. So perfect that manual process. So that process may take 7 steps, but hold on, manually, you can do that better. You can do it in 3 steps. Once you've done that, then you can automate. It's the same thing with any business, not just automation. You first look at the problem first, disseminate it, clean it up, and then you can put what you need over the top. Does that make sense, Diana?
100%. I agree more.
And you do the same thing, I'm sure.
Oh, definitely. Yes, it's you really, that's where all of the analytics in marketing comes in. You have to look at all of that data and figure out what the best course of action is. And like you said, sometimes it's automation, sometimes it's the human element. It's really figuring out what needs to be done and how. And the best way to start is, if this is the result I want, how do I get to this result?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Okay, so right. So great minds think alike. I like that already. I knew I liked you for a reason. So great minds think alike. So you've got the whole, you look at the person's problem, you work backwards, because obviously the client likely does not know what they really need and want, because that's why you're the expert. You've got this huge amount of experience, especially with the degree and going through the path and having such a great mindset. You don't let things bring you back. You just deal with the roles and with the punches, and you just go forward. You will not let a customer down. You get it done. There's no two ways about it. The strength seems to roll further and further. I just want to ask you, what's the next stage to the business? So you obviously got a plan, and things are working so well with the AI and with the marketing. So have you got anything in store for the future? Any plans?
I do.
You go.
It's been kept top secret, but I will let you in on the secret. And so
you remember, you heard it here first. Remember.
One of the things that I've experienced in my years of marketing and just professional overall is there are so many mentorship programs out there. There are so many learning programs out there. But what I would experience is, I'm a full-time mom, I'm a full-time student, and I'm a full-time employee. And I don't always have $2,000 to invest in a program to better my skills, better my knowledge or my experience. And employers aren't always, I know there's employer education credits, but they're not always open to spending it, especially on something that's untested or that they don't feel is connected directly to your role. And so what I found is this desire to find this community that would really support me. And in the absence of one, I've decided to create one. And so I'm launching something called Lead, Teach, Market. And it's basically going to be podcasts, webinars, and in-person events that professionals can all connect in, specifically marketing professionals, but it's open to everyone. And it's going to be teaching you how to be a better leader, how to be an effective leader. There's so much bad leadership advice out there. We really need to be more empathetic leaders, supportive leaders, not be threatened by our employees, but support our employees. I want my employees to eventually replace me. I don't plan on being where I'm at forever. It's just not the nature of business anymore. And so why would I not want to support and encourage my employees beneath me to grow to my level? And so that's the leadership aspect of it. The teach is focused on mentorship. And I believe in a 360 mentorship approach, or a full circle. I want those who have lengthy experience in the industry and in business to be mentoring to those that are just starting out. But I think there's also something that we can learn from those that are just starting out. There's a fresh perspective. There's new ways of doing things. And so I believe in them mentoring each other. And I believe in creating this community where this is all open and easily accessible, and having webinars where we can be teaching each other, we can be learning best practices in marketing, but also supporting and encouraging each other. And then I think there's nothing better than having a live event in person where you can be networking, you can have the Ask Me Anythings, and really find out how to improve your knowledge and your experience talking to professionals and being right there one-on-one with them. And so it's all in the works.
I tell you what, I love that idea, and you are very rare because there's not many people that think like you. And I'll pick out that one thing I'm talking about. You say about not only will you have mentors helping the students, but the students are there also to help the mentors. And I know exactly what you're talking about. We are all similar and we all the same. But when it comes to our jobs, we just have that hat. And when we leave our jobs, the hat comes off. And we all have a huge amount of experience to share. So what you're talking about, even though we are mentors, everyone sees things from a different perspective. So you can always learn from different people, no matter where they so-called are in the cycle of things. Be them at the top, the middle, if you want to see it from that point of view. It doesn't matter, it's irrelevant, because the experience of a person, be that just a student just come out of school, or be that just a person that's had a huge amount of life skill and they're in their 80s, everyone can help everyone because their life skills are completely different.
Exactly. And the way that we approach things, I can tell you right now, I've talked with, TikTok is a great example, especially in the marketing world. You have many seasoned marketers that are kind of stagnant in their jobs, and we don't need to market on TikTok. We don't need to advertise on it. That's just for kids or whatever. And then you have people like my social media content. She's doing phenomenal things for us on TikTok because she understands that market. She knows how to communicate with them, and she knows how to create these really effective campaigns for us. And it's having that, like you said, there's so many different perspectives, and it's getting people to understand that your perspective is not the only one out there, and it's not the only one that's going to be productive. You need to be able to open yourself up to younger perspectives and realize that they have just as much to offer, if not more, because they're coming at things with a very fresh set of eyes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And it comes down to the basics again. You know, when your grandparents taught you about empathy, this comes down to empathy. You know, having a mindset where you have empathy to everyone, no matter what their age. And so hence you're in that mindset of, well, we can all learn from each other. That's the same thing. When you break it down to its solidarity. I tell you what, it's wonderful speaking with you, I must say. And I feel like I'm at home speaking to someone. Just, get up, have a cup of tea, and I'll break out the chocolate biscuits. But okay, so that's really great. So we understand more about the business and how you help people, and how efficient that you are doing that, and why you're the right person to help them if they need that help. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the line in the sand, because I have a habit of just talking too long, and I don't like my podcast going over an hour, because I think that people just say, "Oh, is he still speaking?" But people, I can speak to her forever, because she's got such a beautiful mindset, and she just wants to help as many people as she can, especially with this community she's putting together soon enough, which I'm quite curious about. When is that coming about?
Well, I actually just launched the website, the very base shell of it, last night. And so my goal is to have everything launched within the next couple of months. I'm happy to keep you updated on it.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to get the website going, because obviously in order to have the events, we're going to need to have the attendees. And so I need to start building that awareness of the events. So the website launched officially last night.
Wow. Remember, you heard it first here. It always happens first here. So what we're going to do, we're going to make sure we put all the details down below, and any information that you want, it will be down below for the listeners to have and be able to connect with you and the community, and anything else you want, because I think it holds a huge amount of value for them. So how can they contact you if they need your support when it comes to marketing?
The best way is connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on that. I keep it open on my computer at all times. It's the life of a marketer. Another way would be via email. They can email me at info@leadteachmarket.com.
Okay.
And I'll be able to receive it there as well.
Okay. And as always, listeners, what I'll do is I'll have the information down below to make life easy as possible. So if you didn't quite catch that, just click away, just at the bottom, copy and paste, do your thing, and you're able to get through to her. And you know, if you need marketing expertise, this is the woman for you. Why? Because you know she has the mindset, she'll get the job done, and you know she won't let you down. And with that said, unfortunately, I just want to say thank you, Diana, for your time. I really appreciate for you giving up your time to spend with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure for me. Thank you so much.
No, it's our pleasure, for sure. Listeners, I just want to say thank you for joining us, and we will speak to you soon, and sayonara.